Hello and welcome to the news in English live from Mogadishu. With me, I am Omar Noor. The top headlines include Somali President His Excellency Hassan Sheikh Mohamud has told the Eritrean trained soldiers to prepare for joining the war against Al-Shabaab militants. Puntland is facing electoral crisis as the mandate of the current President Saeed Abdullahi Deni is expiring this year. Somaliland has accused Mogadishu of being behind the current violence in Las Anod city. At least 20 people have been shot dead in the ongoing protest in Las Anod against Somaliland administration. A Ugandan soldier has shot dead at least 3 AU peacekeepers in Mogadishu. Ethiopia has welcomed a new initiative by the African Union to continue the talks with the TPLF rebels to end the 2-year conflict in northern Ethiopia. Welcome back to the news in detail. Somali President His Excellency Hassan Sheikh Mohamud has paid a visit to the newly trained Somali soldiers at General Gordon military base in Mogadishu on Monday morning under tight security situation in Mogadishu. Speaking to the newly trained Somali soldiers at the base, Somali President has informed the soldiers to be prepared for deployment to the front lines on the battle against Al-Shabaab militants in the country. Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud said he is happy to see the soldiers back in the country and now ready to join the liberation of the country. He said the government leaders will join them in the war against Al-Shabaab militants. Hundreds of Somali soldiers have been returned to Mogadishu last month after 2-year training in Eritrea. Thousands of newly trained Somali soldiers are expected to arrive back in Somalia as the country is now battling against the Al-Qaeda-linked militant group Al-Shabaab militants. Somali President has declared war against Al-Shabaab last year after deadly hotel attack in Mogadishu. So far, the government has recorded a milestone in the fight against Al-Shabaab militants as they regained control of large swathes of territory from Al-Shabaab militants. Somali National Army, backed by the community fighters, have been battling against Al-Shabaab for 3 months, mainly in Hiran, Middle Shabelle region and Galgaduud as well. Now the Somali government is going to shift the focus of the military operation to the Middle Juba region, a region that is entirely under Al-Shabaab control for at least 15 years. African Union forces are now taking part the ongoing military operations against Al-Shabaab. Meanwhile, the U.S. military stepped up the counter-terrorism operations in Somalia by carrying airstrikes against Al-Shabaab militants. The Pentagon has redeployed hundreds of American special forces back to Somalia days after the election of Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud in May last year. Al-Shabaab has been defeated militarily, but the group still poses a potent threat to the national security as well as the security of the neighboring countries, mainly Kenya and Ethiopia. Somali government forces discovered landmines in Mesegawai town in Galgaduud region after an operation in the newly recaptured area in central Somalia. An official within the Somali National Army has confirmed that they thwarted a bomb attack against their military inside Mesegawai, a small town that has been liberated by the National Army last week from Al-Shabaab militantes. The government forces, backed by the local clan militia in Middle Shabelle region, have succeeded in liberation of the all districts previously held by Al-Shabaab militantes after a weeks-long deadly offensive against Al-Shabaab militantes. Somali military now are moving toward this Galgaduud region where they want to remove Al-Shabaab from the current strongholds, mainly Al-Bur and other nearby areas. Galmudug State of Somalia said it has gained control of the swathes of territories, but still the militants are in control of strategic towns including Harar Dere and Al-Bur towns. Somali military killed dozens of Al-Shabaab militants during the operations and recaptured a large ground from Al-Shabaab militants. This is the biggest defeat against Al-Shabaab since the group has begun its insurgence 15 years ago. Al-Shabaab was driven out of the capital Mogadishu in 2011 after a joint military operation by the Somali National Army backed by the AU troops. Somalia is facing currently the worst drought in 40 years, which the United Nations is warning to turn into a famine in the Horn of Africa nation. Many pastoralists have lost their livestock and the farmers lost their crops because of the current drought that is making a devastation in Somalia. At least 8 million, which is the half of the population in Somalia, now are facing hunger and thirst after 4 years of consecutive droughts that the United Nations now appeals for life-saving humanitarian assistance to Somalia. United Nations said Somalia is on the brink of famine by the end of last year, but it didn't happen. Somali government has urged all the international donors to move swiftly to save the lives of millions of Somali people who are at risk of dying from starvation. Somalia is among 3 East African nations who have been hit by the drought, and 20 million people in Ethiopia, Kenya, and Somalia now need life-saving assistance from the aid agencies. That's all for our today's English news live from Mogadishu. With me, I am Omar Noor, and the entire team of the program will leave you. Bye for now.